Hey everyone, welcome back. In this Postman tutorial, we are going to modify our script with the better approach to do the test automation. And the script or the test case that we are going to take is basically create issue that we have already seen, and how we can make our tests better and end-to-end test cases. That is what we are going to understand in this particular video. In the previous video, we have also learned that how you can organize your test cases, right? So we have understood, like, based on the API, for example, get event, create issue, right? Or end-to-end testing, you can create different folder within the collection and you can organize your test cases accordingly, right? So now if you see here, we have created a folder. So in the end-to-end API testing, let me remove these two folder, okay? Because we don't have any test cases there. So I'll delete those. This was just to explain you the whole organization structure like that, okay? So now within the API test JIRA cloud, we have the end-to-end API testing, and within this folder we'll have different folders which will be our end-to-end test case. For example, this test, what we are trying to automate is create issue story in existing project, right? So this is one of the test case. All right, now this is more of a end-to-end test case wherein we have to basically get the project copy or get the project ID, get the issue type which we want to create, so ID of the story that we want to create, and get the assignee, right? So let me rename these. These are the copy of the existing request. So I'll simply remove the copy from there. I'll just say create issue type story in this case. Okay, so now we know that in order to create issue type story, either we have to get the exact details of the project, what issue type, the ID we have to get, and then who we are going to assign, right? These are the three mandatory attributes that we have to pass when we were trying to create the story or create any issue, right? So if we go here, you will see the project ID was mandatory, account ID of the reporter, and the issue type was mandatory. Okay. Now, previously what we were doing is we were actually fetching this project ID. Okay, so if we expand here, so you will see that from the response, so if I send this particular request and try to analyze the response, you will see that in the response at number 3, index number 3, because we have specified the hard-coded value 3 here, we are looking for ID of that particular project. Okay, so if we scroll down here, you will see this is the values, right? So values tag is for the array, right? And this values has multiple values. So basically this is the starting bracket for the array, right? The square bracket, and within this we have different object array objects, and you will see that basically at the first level you will see the ID here. Okay, so the ID of the first value, then you will see the second value starts, right, with the curly bracket within that array. So at the third one, we were getting the ID of the project which was at the third level, right? Now if you see this is really a long response, and to analyze all of this and see which project we are basically interested in, it's a tedious work, right? It's a tedious manual work. So now the better approach would be to, because we know that the project name and key will be static, right? ID can change depending on the number of projects in a particular project, in a particular JIRA instance, right? For example, you have 10 projects today. Tomorrow there is a new team launched. There will be 2 more projects added. So there will be 12 projects overall. Now today, the project that you are looking for might be at the index 3, but tomorrow it might be at index 4 or 5, right? You are not sure. So it's better to get a particular value of the project which is highly unlikely to change, which is basically the project name, unless and until the project is completely deleted, right? So project name and key will remain static and are highly unlikely to change unless and until the project is there, right? So if project exists, the ID within JIRA, the project ID within JIRA will remain same. So if we can have some logic to figure out the name of the project and then fetch the ID of the project as per that name, that is better way to store that ID, right? Instead of hard coding this index here. So this is what we have learned with the map method. Now let me quickly go ahead and update this script for get project, okay, and store it in the variable, right? So what I'll do is I'll go to expand sidebar, and then we had this script here. We had learned this previously. So let me copy that script here. Okay, so if you see, we had 2 ways to basically get those details. So here I'll get this map Okay, so let me copy, okay, and go to this get projects, right? And now what I'll do is I'll move this code here, okay, and paste everything here. Now let's update. So I'll comment these lines, and now we know that map method works on existing array. All right, so the first thing we have to see what exactly this whole response is, right? So if I simply go ahead and say console.log and just print whatever we are getting in the response, which is, you know, when we say pm.response.json, it gets the JSON response and stores it as a JavaScript object. So if I comment this, let's see what exactly is printed in the console. Okay, so you'll see clear and send again, so you can see that. So you'll see this is printed, right? So basically this is one of the, you know, object, and this is not the array, right? It starts with curly braces. So array is what the values contain, right? You'll see the 11 elements here. So values tag is what the array is. So basically if we have to use map, we have to go ahead and get to the values, right? So we can basically use the map method to get a subset, to get another array or child array from this parent array, which just contains the key or the name of the project. So if we get an array which just contains a key or the name of the project, then we can easily iterate over that array and check, okay, if the key is similar to what we are looking for, if the name of the project is similar to what we are looking for, then store the ID of that particular project. Okay, so this is basically what we are going to achieve now. So let me close this. And now what we'll do is, first thing is we have to get the array so that we can use the map method. How we are going to get the array? So response is the whole object, right? But if we say response and then values is at the same level, basically at the root level. So if we say response dot values, right, then that will give me this particular array. Okay, if we say response dot total, it will give me the 11. If we say response dot max result, it will give me 50, right? So values is at similar level as max result, start, total, etc. So we'll say response dot values, right? So if I change it to response dot values and try to print it, let's see what it is printed. So you'll see now this array values are being printed. Previously this is the whole response that was being printed. Now response dot values is just this particular array. Now we can use the map method on this, right, on this particular array. So instead of having this or logging it, I can store it in a variable. So I can say, okay, I'll define a variable and I'll say project keys, right? Or I'll say project details, okay, because this is giving me all the project details, okay, and then I'll get those values from the values tag and store it in the project details variable. Now this project details will hold what? This will hold the array. Now on this variable, I can use the map method. Okay, so something similar basically. So we'll use this project details, okay, and then we'll say dot map. Okay, so from the project detail, map what? I want to map whatever you want to map key or you want to map the name. So I'll stick to key. Okay, so I can also have the name. So let me go ahead with the name this time, and the next time you can try with the approach is absolutely similar, no change. Okay, so I'll say, okay, I want to map the name. So I'll say map name from the project detail, which is basically project details, which is array, where we read this arrow as where name dot name. Okay, here we can say, okay, project name. All right, so map project name, map project name from project details where project name is. Okay, so we'll simply say project name dot name, because here if you see, I expand this first value, you'll see project name and then this tag here, right, the name, the attribute name, where project name, and then we can specify whatever name we want to map. Okay, so let me close it. So what this will do is, what we are doing here, we are just mapping the project names from all the project detail array, and this whole thing will return another array. Okay, so this project names, okay, I'll say project names here instead of issue type. This is basically going to return project names, right, only the project names. And if we go ahead and print this, okay, on the console, it will be more clear. Okay, you will see what exactly we are getting as per the project names there. All right, so let me go ahead and open the console and then send this particular request. You will see now what is happening. The first print is all the details, right? All the project details with each and every attribute within that particular object. But the second is just the project names. We have got the project names array, right, which just contains project name and the index of the project that we are looking for. Now we can basically go ahead and check, okay, if project name matches with something, only then pick the ID of that particular project and store it as a variable, collection variable. So time to uncomment this particular line and change it, right? So now in the last line we'll say pm.collection variables.set, okay, and then here we will set what? We'll set the project name, or we are setting the project ID, right? So we have to store, basically we are setting the project ID based on project name. So if I say get the ID of the project which has the project name as RCV Academy ABC, right? This is what we are trying to do. Okay, so here I'll say, okay, project ID, and I will just name it as new. Okay, so you know that this is the new one. All right, or let me change it to map. Okay, because we are using the map method, so we'll just use this key here. Okay, and then what we have to do is, we know that this project details, right, this project detail basically, or this project name contains what? It contains the whole project names, just project names from the array. Okay, so if we say, okay, project names, and then how we are going to get the index of a particular project, we have the method index of as well. Okay, so we can say, okay, simply, so here, okay, not this, so project names will basically fetch me the subset of that particular array. So this will be the project details, right? So basically from the project details which has the main array, okay, and then we will filter. Okay, so let me think. So simply project names, copy, sorry, project detail, paste it there, problem there, let me, okay, so project details, right? And then how we are going to get the index of a particular project name, right? So where are we storing the project names? We are storing in this particular array, in this constant, right? Basically this project name. So we'll simply get that project name, okay, and a dot index of what index, or basically which index we are looking for the particular project. So we simply change that to name, okay, and what is the name of the project that you're looking for? Just pass on that particular name. So for example, here I'm looking for the index of, say, RCV Classic Scrum. Okay, so I'll just copy that and just pass it as the value here, right? And then this collection variable, which will have the variable name as project ID map, okay, will store the ID, the project ID, right? Because we know that from the project details, which is the main array, which is the response, which is the array which contains, this is the response, right? And now we just want to get the index of a particular project which has a particular name. So for example, RCV Classic Kanban, and then we want to store the ID of that particular project. So how we are storing? We are just passing that index in the request. And how we are getting that particular index? Through this project name dot index of, and passing that name, right? So we are saying, okay, just pass that index, and then that will get stored there. All right, so this will basically check that, okay, this name matches whatever name that you are looking for. Okay, so this is the name that you're looking for. If it matches within that particular array, the index will be stored there. Okay, so basically then project details, and then whatever the index dot name will be fetched. All right, so if I send this and check the console, so it has gone through. Let me go to the collection there, okay, and see if that variable has been created and the value has been stored there. Okay, so let me close it. You will see project ID map, okay, and then it has stored the value which is name, right? Because we haven't set that store the ID. If we go back to the script here, this is the problem that we have done. So we have stored the name, right? And that is why you will see RCV Classic Scrum has been saved here. But if we want to save the ID, okay, because we know there is a project ID, so if we go back here, for each of the values, we have the ID, we have the key, right? So based on the name, we can store anything. We can say .id and the ID will be stored. So here we'll change it to ID. Okay, send again, and that value should get updated to the ID, right? You will see this is now updated to the ID of the project whose name is RCV Classic Scrum. Okay, if you want to store the ID of some other project, so for example this one, I'll copy that and just change this to and send it back, and you'll see this ID got updated to 10015. Okay, so this is better approach. Now our script is not dependent on where that particular value exists in the response, right? Because we are searching based on the project name, or we can search based on the project key, right? So for example, here what we are doing is we are searching based on the project name, right? We are getting the index based on the project name with the index of something. Now if we want to use the project key, right, I can say, okay, I can define another variable, all right, and then I can say, okay, project keys, all right, and then project details dot map project key, all right, okay, so project key, and then map the project key and the key, right? Instead of name, we are mapping the key, right? So basically map project key from the project details array, where project key or the key is basically whatever keys are there in that particular array, and then store it in the project keys array, right? So this constant or this particular variable project keys will hold all of those keys instead of the name, right? So here I can print both, and you will see that now this time it will be storing the project names as well as project keys. Okay, so I'll send this, and you will see that this one is the names and the second one is project keys. All the keys are being printed. Now based on the keys as well, I can see, or I can store the ID of the project. Okay, so I can say, okay, based on the project key, you set the collection variable, right? So I can either have the name thing there or have the pm.collection variable dot set project ID map 1. I'll rename it, right? Because we already have a variable with that name. And this time we'll set based on what? Based on the project keys. Okay, so I'll check the index of a particular project which has a particular key. So for example, this time I'll pass in the key. Okay, so I'll say I want the project detail which has the key, or the ID of the project which has the key nkpn. All right, so I'll simply copy that and I will put that in here, and the ID will get stored in a variable project ID map 1 this time. Okay, so if we go here to the collection, you won't see any of the project ID map 1. Okay, so with that script, a new variable will get created and the value will be populated there. Okay, so if I send this now and go back here, you will see project ID map 1 has been created, and this value, the project ID, is being checked based on the key that you are passing here, nkpn, and it's not dependent on hard coding that index that you have to figure out initially and then see, okay, this particular project exists at number 4 in the particular array, and then pass in that index 3 here because the value is at number 4, and then get the ID, right? That was simple, but that is not going to work in long term if your scripts or automation scripts are really complicated. So you have to make sure you build this smart logic there within your scripts, so you can put any name or any particular value in the response that is highly unlikely to change, and key and name are highly unlikely to change in this particular case. So I have used one of that. I have shown both, but we will stick to the key or name one of that for our future automation script, right? So this is how we are going to do one request, right? Now I'll update all of these requests with the similar approach and finalize this particular test case. We'll run it end to end, and then we'll proceed with future advanced topics in Postman. So this is all for this particular video. I hope it was helpful. Thank you very much for watching.